Signs the Golden Bachelorette's Chalk Chapel's refusal to move to NYC could push Joan Vassos to end their relationship? Should Joan make the move without him? Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. Have a nice day. I am Jessica. For the latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. The Golden Bachelorette star Chalk Chapel has been making it seem like he's no longer interested in moving from Kansas to NYC the way he and Joan Vassos originally agreed to, showing signs that Joan could choose to end their relationship. As Joan and Chuck, who met and fell in love during the Golden Bachelorette Season 1, have been sharing more about their relationship, Bachelor Nation has appeared to have more questions. Throughout Joan and Chuck's post-season press appearances, they made it clear that they were going to try to move to NYC after the chaos came to an end. While Joan and Chuck have been back and forth between her home state of Maryland, his home state of Kansas, and New York City a few times in the last few months, it's become increasingly obvious that Chuck would prefer to stay in Kansas. Joan, who's been upfront about wanting to be close enough to be around her kids and grandkids in Maryland, was open to NYC because of the ability to get back home in a few short hours by train. Even so, while Joan's been exploring her options in NYC, Chuck's been back in Kansas without much momentum. Joan could find herself single again after the Golden Bachelorette. Joan's dreamt of living in NYC after the Golden Bachelorette. Although Joan has been open about the fact that she's interested in moving to New York, she's been doing a lot of searching on her own, sharing that she and Chuck were going to be looking into real estate in NYC after the Golden Bachelorette. Joan revealed that the pair were exploring the Soho neighborhood before the holiday season. While things slowed down after Christmas, it was clear the search was still on. Joan's made a few trips to New York City since the holiday season, but the majority of her time there has been spent without Chuck tagging along. Though he's got to be cognizant of his business in Kansas, Chuck also just doesn't appear like he was as interested in NYC as Joan was. Rather than being upfront, however, Chuck's been ignoring Bachelor Nation's questions about the Big Apple. Chuck's distaste for NYC could be a deal-breaker. Although Chuck hasn't been direct about the idea of not moving to New York City, he's been spending the majority of his time in Kansas while Joan's been moving around a fair bit. Despite knowing that he's interested in staying with Joan, Chuck's been open about the fact that Kansas is a huge deal for him. Unfortunately, not sticking by Joan in her pursuit of moving to NYC could be a deal-breaker for the couple. Chuck's desire to stay in Kansas could prove to be a way bigger issue than expected, especially if he doesn't keep Joan up to date. Will the couple's non-move to NYC split them up? As Joan and Chuck move through their relationship, they've already dealt with a fair deal of ups and downs. Though they're strong together, it seems like their relationship is still very young, and the level of maturity they both need to build could be a big deal. Chuck wanting to stay in Kansas could prove to be something Joan doesn't have the ability to get over, especially if she's determined to move to NYC no matter what. Though she may try to find a compromise with Chuck, Joan could find herself single again after the Golden Bachelorette. But the Golden Bachelorette, 8 signs Chalk Chapel and Joan Vassos will move to Wichita, Kansas. Not NYC is the city life not for them. The Golden Bachelorette, Joan Vassos, and Chalk Chapel have talked about moving to New York City, but there are signs the couple is more likely to move to Wichita, Kansas instead. 62-year-old Joan met 60-year-old Chalk on the first night of her season of The Bachelor spinoff. The widowed mother of 4 was no stranger to looking for love on network television. She made her television debut during Gary Turner's season of The Golden Bachelor. When a family emergency led to Joan leaving the show early, she was then cast as the Golden Bachelorette. Joan dated 24 single older men during the Golden Bachelorette Season 1, including Chuck. After a dramatic season filled with ups and downs, Joan gave Chuck her final rose. The couple got engaged and headed off to live happily ever after. There was only one problem: Joan and Chuck lived a substantial distance away from each other. They've been flying back and forth to be together, but they'll eventually need to settle down somewhere. Though they've talked about buying a place in New York City, there's always a chance they'll choose to live in Wichita, Kansas instead. A brief scroll down Chuck's Instagram page makes one thing clear: Chuck loves Wichita, Kansas. He's a proud Kansas citizen, and he posts about his hometown a lot. In February, Chalk and Joan appeared on the cover of Splurge magazine, which posted the photos on Instagram. The post's caption reads, in part, "This Wichita golden couple has captured our hearts." Splurge magazine is a Wichita, Kansas publication, so it's great that they have already embraced Joan. Chuck has a deep connection to the community. He's built a great life in Wichita, and Joan appears happy in Kansas. Joan and Chuck have been going back and forth between Kansas and Maryland to be together while spending time in New York and Los Angeles. They even split the holidays between their two home bases. They spent Thanksgiving at Joan's house in Kansas, then celebrated Christmas at Chuck's house in Kansas. Recently, Chuck posted Instagram photos of him and Joan hanging out in Kansas. Though they've said they intend to find a place in New York, Joan looks like she had a great time in the Sunflower State. Joan could potentially consider relocating to Kansas to be with Chuck. In November 2024, Joan and Chuck posted an NYC apartment update. They described an exhaustive search. They looked at apartments on the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side, and several other parts of the city, settling on finding a place in Soho. Though their real estate agent showed them several places, they hadn't found the right one yet. Maybe the Golden Bachelorette Season 1 couple got discouraged by the search. Since getting engaged during the Golden Bachelorette Season 1 finale, Joan and Chuck have been in Kansas a lot. In one of his most recent posts, Chuck took Joan to meet his Wichita friends, and it was hard not to notice it looked like a great party. It took place at a local bar with 100 of Chuck's closest friends in attendance. Introducing at Joan Vassos to all of my Wichita friends, reads Chuck's caption. What a night. Though Joan and Chuck may have some friends in NY, it's not the same as Chuck's social network in Kansas. Finding an apartment in Manhattan can be a full-time job, even with the help of a good real estate agent. Joan and Chuck not living there also complicates the matter. Not to mention, apartments in NYC are expensive and tiny, so it would be a change for Joan and Chuck. They're both longtime homeowners who are accustomed to much bigger homes, so they're probably struggling to find a place they can be happy in. Before joining the cast of the Golden Bachelorette Season 1, Chuck was a successful insurance executive. Since Chuck owns his own business in Kansas, it would be difficult to move out of the state. Joan's job as a private school administrator would be easier to transfer to a new state. Besides, Joan's career as a public figure has been taking off since the Golden Bachelorette, and she could transition out of education entirely. She's been steadily increasing her social media presence. She has 188K followers on Instagram, and Chuck has 80K followers. Since leaving the Golden Bachelorette Season 1, Joan and Chuck have seemed to enjoy traveling back and forth to see each other. Though they're technically in a long-distance relationship, they spend most of their time together. A long-distance relationship may not be for everyone, but Joan and Chuck appear to be having fun with it. They both get to spend time showing each other around their respective states while spending time with each other's family and friends. On top of that, they get to travel more often. It hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows for the new couple. They've posted photos of their various Golden Bachelorette Disneyland adventures. If Joan and Chuck got a place in New York, they'd have to vacation there all the time instead of mixing it up. It's possible the couple realized they were having fun enjoying their jet-setting lifestyle. Once they get tired of going back and forth, they are still more likely to move to Kansas than New York City. Joan and Chuck are a great couple, and the process of being on the Golden Bachelorette Season 1 has worked for them. It hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows for the couple. After getting engaged, Joan and Chuck wanted to work on blending their families, but that didn't work as well as they expected. In December, Joan posted a clip on Instagram of her and Chuck discussing their relationship. During the clip, they talk about blending their families, which Joan confesses has been a little harder right now. Nothing would make Chuck happier than living in Wichita, Kansas with Joan. Joan and Chuck didn't get into details, but they were discouraged by the matter. Things aren't perfect, but Joan and Chuck are working through their issues. Lately, they seem to be less focused on blending their families, and more focused on making each other happy. Nothing would make Chuck happier than living in Wichita, Kansas with Joan. It remains to be seen if Joan comes to agree. Though Joan and Chalk share a love for New York City, they love the great outdoors. A few weeks after Joan and Chalk went to Cancun, the Golden Bachelorette Season 1 couple was traveling to Sonoma for some wine tasting. Chalk posted Instagram photos of him and Joan posing in front of a 300-foot redwood tree. "Sipping wine in California with my favorite gal by my side," reads Chalk's caption. Joan and Chalk like New York City, but may prefer a quieter life outside a major city. The Golden Bachelorette's Chalk Chapel makes rare NYC appearance with Joan Vassos, amid signs he won't leave Wichita for good. The Golden Bachelorette's Chalk Chapel made a rare appearance in New York to support his fiancée Joan Vassos, amid rumors swirling that he's refusing to leave Kansas behind in their pre-planned move. While the couple, who has been talking about moving to New York City since the finale of the Golden Bachelorette Season 1, have been spending their time in various locations. Chalk's primarily been in his home state of Kansas. Though Joan has been in New York, Maryland, and Kansas with Chalk, the fact that she's been traveling while he hasn't has been a pain point for Bachelor Nation. Though Chalk may not always be able to show up to Joan's important events to support her, seeing him in NYC was great. In a new Instagram post, Chalk shared that he'd made it to New York City in support of Joan during a recent podcast appearance. Posing with Joan, former Bachelorette Charity Lawson, and her fiancé Dotun Olubeko, Chalk made it clear that he'd had a long week of travel for Joan. From Wichita, Tulsa, NYC. "It's been a busy week with at Joan Vassos," Chalk shared, cross-posting the photo with Joan. While Chalk has been keeping busy, it's been clear that his primary focus has been about staying in Kansas rather than Joan, who's been trying to secure an NYC home. Although Joan and Chalk have been moving around a lot lately, it's been Joan that's been doing the most wandering while Chalk has been staying put in Kansas. Whether it's because of his business, because of his family, or because he simply doesn't want to leave the area for long, it's been clear that Joan is more open to the travel required of their relationship in its current state. Joan and Chalk have appeared to be trying to keep up with each other, and Chalk making an appearance in NYC for Joan is a great step in the right direction. While Chalk's apparent distaste for New York City has been making it seem like the couple may not follow through with their plans to move to the area, it's clear that the pair are still holding strong in their affection for one another. Chalk trying to be supportive of Joan as she's moved through an incredibly busy time, especially knowing that she's done a lot of traveling in her most recent stretch, has been great to see. Though Chalk may not always be able to show up to Joan's important events to support her, seeing him in NYC was great. Our take on Chalk making an appearance at Joan's NYC event. Though Chalk was able to be supportive of Joan at her NYC podcast event, it was interesting to see that he framed his post with it being a bit of a difficulty. Sharing that he'd gone from his home in Wichita to another part of Kansas with Joan before heading to NY. See, it's clear that he felt like he was making some sort of sacrifice being in New York to be supportive of his fiancée. Regardless, the fact that Chalk was there to support Joan at all was a great sign for the Golden Bachelorette couple moving forward.